A car sits frozen in the snow and nobody knows why. The snow had melted by late April, leaving ice along the edges of Highway 2. A road crew was doing their usual work when they saw something strange. A brown Toyota Corolla was half buried in the snow below a steep slope. From up on the road, it looked like the car had been sitting there for weeks. The windows were completely fogged up from the inside. Pine needles covered the roof. Frost made the paint look dull and gray like something lifeless. When the deputies finally got down to the car, all the doors were locked. They looked inside and found complete silence. No blood anywhere, no footprints around it, no sign that anyone had been there at all. This was just the beginning of one of the strangest family disappearances anyone had ever seen. The year was 1982. Los Angeles was warming up as spring started to take hold. That slow kind of heat that comes before summer really hits. In the quiet streets of Glassell Park, the evening was calm and normal. Porch lights turned on one by one as darkness came. Sprinklers moved back and forth across the lawns. A TV was playing behind a window that was barely open, its light flickering softly in the growing darkness. It was the kind of night where nothing unusual should happen, a night that felt like every other night. The kind of night you would forget completely unless something went wrong. Inside one simple home lived the Garcia family, Carmen Maria Bonds Garcia, her husband Diego, and their young daughter Barbara. To everyone around them, they seemed completely normal. Carmen was quiet and spent most of her time taking care of her daughter. Diego mostly kept to himself and worked different jobs to pay the bills. Their daughter would spend her afternoons riding her bike on the sidewalk, going around and around the same spot without a care in the world. Nothing about this family stood out, and nothing seemed wrong. But everything was about to change. That evening seemed perfectly normal at first. Lights were on in the living room. A TV was playing somewhere inside the house. A neighbor remembered hearing a child's voice that sounded happy before everything went quiet again. Around 9:30 at night, the family's brown Toyota backed out of the driveway. The car moved slowly and calmly. It rolled past the other houses at a normal speed with the child sitting in the back seat. The headlights stayed off until the car got to the corner, but nobody thought that was weird at the time. It looked like they were just going out like any other family would, but they would never come back. The family was supposed to show up at a gathering the next morning. When they didn't arrive, relatives tried to call them. Nobody answered the phone. Later that same day, family members went to the house to check on them. What they found made them feel uneasy. The lights inside were still turned on. Dishes were sitting on the counter like someone had stopped eating in the middle of a meal. Personal things were right where they should be. Clothes were hanging neatly in the closets. And the family dog had been left behind with no food. People who knew Carmen said she would never do that on purpose. Something was very wrong. There were no broken windows or doors, no note left behind, no sign that they had planned a trip or packed anything. The home looked like someone had just stepped out for a minute and planned to come right back, but never did. At first, police thought the family had left on their own. Most of the time, families who disappear show up somewhere else with new plans or reasons. But days went by, then weeks, and there was no sign of them anywhere. No money was taken from their bank, no calls to family. No one saw them anywhere. It was like the family had been erased from the world without leaving a single trace. 6 weeks later, their car would finally be found, and the mystery would only get deeper. When relatives first walked into the Garcia home, the first thing they noticed was how still everything felt. Not regular quiet, but the kind of stillness that fills a place after people are already gone, and nothing has moved since. Lights were glowing softly in the hallway. The kitchen table had the leftovers of a meal, plates pushed aside but not cleaned, glasses still half full, forks and spoons sitting where hands had left them. A thin layer had already formed on top of one drink, showing that hours had passed with nobody there. Nothing was knocked over, nothing looked wrong, but something definitely was. In the living room, a magazine sat open on the sofa like someone had been reading it and just got up for a second. A child's coloring book was on the floor next to a single crayon. Clean laundry sat folded on a bedroom chair, waiting to be put away. All the small things people do on a normal evening had stopped in the middle. There was no sign of suitcases being packed, no note anywhere, no clue that plans had been made or changed. When police walked through the house that day, they found no signs of a fight or someone breaking in. Drawers were closed, beds were made, the closets had all the clothes right where they should be. Nothing was missing, nothing extra was there, nothing prepared for a trip. What made it strange was what they didn't find. No phone calls had been made, no messages left anywhere. Nothing showed where they might have gone or why. The home wasn't abandoned, it was frozen in time. Neighbors couldn't help much either. They had seen the family's car leave the night before. There was no yelling, no sudden noise, no strange cars on the street. A normal evening had happened and then disappeared along with the people living it. Outside the house sat dark and still every night, curtains closed, mail piling up in the slot. The lights in the house turned off one by one over time, leaving a building that looked strangely frozen, like it had stopped moving forward while everything around it kept going. There was no mess, no disorder, no sign of a fight, just emptiness, complete, unbroken, impossible to explain. 6 weeks would go by before something finally showed up. Not the family, not a message, not a hint about where they went or why, but just their car sitting alone far from home in a place that made no sense. And when people found it, it created even more questions than the empty house had. 6 weeks after the Garcia family was last seen, winter started to fade in the San Gabriel Mountains. Snow melted away in strips along the ridges, and the air felt hollow and quiet like places do when nobody has been there for too long. It was late April when workers fixing the road saw something. A brown Toyota Corolla sitting far below Highway 2, half covered by snow and pine needles, like the mountain had been slowly swallowing it since the day it got there. From up on the road, the car looked perfectly still, not crashed, not twisted from hitting something, just sitting there. One worker thought it was strange enough to check out. Soon deputies came, their boots making crunching sounds on a slope covered in mud and ice. They walked down carefully, their breath showing in the cold air, their voices sounding weird in all that silence. When they got to the car, they stopped and stared. There was no violence anywhere, no broken windows, no dents that would show a crash happened. No personal stuff scattered on the ground, no tire marks up above showing the car had swerved off the road suddenly. The doors were shut, the windows were fogged up from inside, and the engine was ice cold. This car had been here for a long time. Inside, investigators found everything looking normal. No blood, no damage, no note left behind. Nothing deliberately placed there, and nothing obviously taken away as far as they could see. A car without the people who drove it, a vehicle that had lost its purpose. What happened here? Some disappearances leave chaos behind. Scenes that show life got interrupted suddenly, that something broke the normal routine. But this was completely different. This was too neat, too undisturbed, like the moment they left wasn't because of panic, but because of something quieter, something harder to figure out. A tow truck was called. The Corolla got pulled from the mountain slowly and carefully, tires dragging through the melting snow, cutting a path where none had existed before. Once the car made it back to the road, the search got bigger. Officers looked everywhere for any sign of the family, clothes, bags, anything at all. Search teams walked through the nearby woods. Helicopters flew over the ridges looking down. For days, people walked the mountains, made maps, and listened carefully. But even as the snow melted, it gave up nothing. No footprints walking away from the car, no bodies anywhere close by, no signs that anyone had tried to walk back to the road or down into the valleys below. If the family had gotten out of the car here, there was absolutely no trace. Not in the dirt, not in the ice, not anywhere, and that missing evidence meant something heavy. Investigators thought about every logical explanation. Had the car slid off the road weeks earlier? If that happened, why were there no skid marks or disturbance on the slope? Why no visible scrapes or tears underneath the car? Had someone else driven it here? If so, why abandon it in such a remote and harsh place? And where did they go after that? Had the family tried to hike out on foot? If they did, Their bodies should have been found nearby, or at least something that belonged to them. Clothing, fabric, bones would have shown up eventually. None of those things ever appeared. It's easy to think a house left in stillness might just be an accident or coincidence. It's much harder to ignore a car abandoned in the mountains with zero trace of the people who drove it there. This wasn't just a simple missing person case anymore. It had become a puzzle about location, a trip that looked unfinished from every possible angle. And yet every record, every witness statement, every official detail pointed to the same disturbing truth. The family left their home, they drove into the mountains, and then nothing. Just 3 lives erased from the world, leaving only a car as proof they had ever been there at all. Where did they go? Spring moved deeper into the hills, melting more snow and showing the ground underneath. Search teams hoped for answers, bodies, belongings, some proof of where they walked. But as each day melted another layer of ice, the ground stayed as empty as the day the Corolla was discovered. And the question still hung there, floating in the cold air over that gorge like breath that never fades away. If they got out of the car, where did they go? And if they never got out, what happened to them inside? In the weeks after finding the car, the official search grew larger, then slowly got smaller. Dozens of volunteers joined sheriff's deputies and mountain rescue teams, searching through ravines and creek beds, following every shape of the land. Each day started the same way. A grid drawn on a map, radios tested, and a careful walk down into the forest. Each day ended the same way too, finding nothing. The San Gabriel Mountains are huge, a landscape of steep slopes, shifting snow, and sudden weather changes. It's a place that knows how to keep its secrets. But even in land this rough and dangerous, something should have turned up. A shoe, a piece of torn clothing, some hint of where the Garcia family had gone. Nothing ever appeared. When the ground finally cleared of all the ice, investigators came back one last time. They found no bodies, no signs of a fight, no proof that anyone had walked away from the car. The snow around it had stayed untouched. There were no animal tracks anywhere close. It was like the car had shown up without any people in it at all. What really happened that night? With no witnesses and no physical proof, the investigation slowed down. Theories started to fill the empty space. The simplest explanation was an accident. That the Garcia family had just driven into the mountains, got lost, and died from the cold. It made sense except for one problem, the car itself. It had no signs of hitting anything, no broken parts, and hadn't run out of gas. If they stopped on purpose, why pick that spot? If they died somewhere nearby, why didn't the melting snow reveal their bodies? Another idea was that they disappeared on purpose. Maybe the family had chosen to leave their old lives behind and start over somewhere far away. But what they found at their home didn't match that story. They had left money sitting there, clothes hanging in closets, and an unfinished dinner still on the table. They had left their dog behind. People who want to vanish don't leave half-eaten meals sitting out. Over time, the theories got weirder. Some people thought Diego had gotten mixed up with dangerous people, or that the family had run into someone bad in those final hours. There were unproven claims about cult activity in the area during the early 1980s. Rumors whispered quietly at first, then passed around in hushed conversations that people remembered for years. People claimed they saw figures on back roads after dark, far from streetlights and safety. Residents living in the foothills north of Los Angeles sometimes talked about gatherings happening in the woods, small fires seen through the trees, strange chanting heard on the wind during nights when the air was still and sounds carried farther than they normally should. Some described symbols carved into rocks near forgotten trails or wax leftovers found pooled in hollow tree trunks. None of these reports were ever proven, but each one got repeated enough times to become part of the story's darker side. Could something sinister have happened? Then came rumors that were even harder to explain, the kind that exist on the edges of official records. In the days around when the family disappeared, a few residents along the Angeles Crest Highway said they saw lights in the sky. Not airplane lights or city glow from far away, but something stranger. Low, silent points of light, moving in slow, careful patterns across the mountains. Too steady to be flares, too quiet to be helicopters, and too controlled to be confused with stars. One witness said they looked like they were gliding, as if whatever made the light drifted instead of flew. Another person claimed the lights would stop suddenly, hovering in one spot before changing direction with a smoothness that felt wrong, more like watching a thought move than watching a machine. Others talked about fog that showed up without warning, not rolling down from the peaks, but rising suddenly from the road itself. Thick, pale clouds that swallowed headlights and dampened sound, hanging in the low areas long after the rest of the air had cleared. Drivers said it felt strange being inside it, like the world went silent all at once, radios turning to static before cutting out completely. A few described a faint glow inside the fog, not bright, just enough to make the mist seem alive in the darkness. A reminder that sometimes the mountains hide secrets, and sometimes the fog isn't just weather, but something waiting in the silence. By the end of 1982, the Garcia case had gone cold. The file was marked inactive. What started as a missing persons report had turned into one of those quiet mysteries that disappear from public memory but never really get solved. Even decades later, when the case popped up online briefly, no new information appeared. No one said they had seen the family. No one recognized them living under new names. The records stay the same as they were, sparse, careful, and without answers. What remains is the feeling, the texture of the mystery itself. A house left frozen in time. A car sitting in a gorge with 6 weeks unaccounted for. Today, the official record ends where the search did, with a single entry noting the recovered vehicle was empty, property returned, case unresolved. Beyond that, the story belongs to guesses and silence. And somewhere between the quietness of that home and the frozen stillness of the mountains, an entire family seems to have slipped out of the visible world, leaving behind only questions and the faint sense that whatever took them wasn't sudden or quick, but something slower, older, and completely beyond explanation.